coming through their front entrance. How's it, Chris? All right. I think should we maybe just give it sort of a minute, and then we'll start. Everybody got some coffee ready? Good on you, Robert. All right. Yeah, look, I think maybe we should start. Folks will be joining shortly as we go. From our side, Peter Toy, I'm essentially hosting this team of very highly capable people that really understand how we drive SurveilMint and how we drive optimization for your Microsoft investments. We'll be today taking you through how we do that from a Mint perspective, and how we can help you with these strategies and optimizing your investment at your customers, and of course, if you're a partner, of course, for your end customers as well. I'm thinking, Burns, whilst you're driving, can you take us there to the next slide?
Yep. This is just your team.
Checking it doesn't
moving on your side.
No, it's not moving on my side yet.
Yeah, it did switch over. I can see it on my end. Yeah.
Same on my side.
Interesting.
It's gonna be fun.
All right, no worries.
It's the slide with the four gentlemen on it. So just explaining who we are.
No, all good. I have my own live copy. So yeah, just from that, Peter Toy, essentially looking after the channel business at Mint. My team here, the guys will introduce themselves as we go. Bernard Clayton and Deon. Deon is a real whiz kid that puts all of these things together for us so we can, I guess, massage the narrative and make it more appealing for you guys to understand what we are talking about. I think, if you can go over to the next slide, Ben.
Yeah.
All right, so it's all up, we see a lot of this in the market. I guess, folks sometimes refer to it as a bit of Kool-Aid. I think the difference for us from Mint perspective is really that this is our creative fuel. This is what we live and breathe by. For us, a good customer, a good partner is somebody that can actually inspire, can make a difference. And of course, at the core of that is using technology. So today we're going to segue into the agenda there, Bern. And yeah, just touch on that briefly. So today is pretty interactive. You'll see through the presentation that we will touch on certain elements that we'll talk through. We'll have obviously views of that. I would be able to find that in the tool, in the software, and so forth. We'll go through a demonstration of Surveil specifically, and then I guess the most important part of that is how we bring all of that together at the end in terms of a Q&A. So please, anytime, ask questions. We have a forum for that at the back end. If you sort of populating what you want to ask or what you want more info from, we'll talk to it. And yeah. All right, so diving over to the four sort of common pain points, right? So there are many different things that, of course, concern the market and concern you from your Microsoft investment perspective. How do you keep tabs on it? How do you manage it? How do you ensure it's automated and so forth? But just put that into an all-up. If you look at sort of 4 main areas, slide over to the next one.
We are on the next one, Peter.
Sorry, I can't.
Okay,
I'm still.
cool.
Apologies. I'm still on the first slide for whatever unknown reason.
Okay.
All right. So today mainly we're going to be talking about these 4 pain points, if you will. So if you look at things like, how do you optimize and analyze your Microsoft environment? So essentially SurveilMint would give you that ability, right? It would give you the ability to have a cloud management platform that helps you monitor your users, analyze, optimize, and most importantly, really secure your Microsoft 365 and Azure environments. For this webinar specifically, we are focusing on M365. How do we look at that? You get a single dashboard that gives you that visibility into your cloud usage, your performance costs, and then, of course, importantly, your security posture, right? It also offers you, recommendations, of course, based on AI and industry standards, of course, to improve that efficiency, effectiveness, and compliance. So I think in there, we'll go in more detail in terms of how this looks from a technology perspective, how it looks in the tool, how these recommendations surfaces, and so forth. But at a high level, that's what I would look at. If you look at, for example, how do you go and from SurveilMint, from this perspective, to talking to the next point, specifically, how do you gain insight into things like teams and collaboration, right? So SurveilMint will help you to gain those insights in terms of user interactions, team collaboration, and provide you with, again, a single dashboard. You have your report, you have your analytics, and very, very super important, the recommendation engine that shows you this adoption, shows you activity, engagement, and so forth. Very important here is to identify, of course, trends, patterns, anomalies, for example, in user behavior, and team usage. And the team will take you through that just now. Right, so in terms of how do we optimize, from a cloud perspective, it's always been the thing, right? So we all moved into the cloud and we realized it can be pretty expensive if you not sure how to maintain it and how to manage it. So SurveilMint from that perspective, gives you that opportunity to optimize your costs. Again, single dashboard view. You have an optimization tool essentially in there, and then again recommendations, right? What are you doing? What you should be doing? What is your forecasting looking like? What are your opportunities to save money, right? Can you use that same savings to go and reinvest into your business for greater efficiency and so forth, right? So that's very important. The model is essentially twofold. It is something that you can do yourselves, in terms of recommendations and have your team run with it. We can also provide that service for you depending on the posture of your team internally. Big talking point, probably the most important, is how we can help in terms of cloud security, right? So we talked about dashboard, we talked about remediation, and so forth. But the main thing is looking at things like your statuses. What is your security core looking like? What gaps are there? What incidents are your security posture? Risk compliance across Microsoft 365 and Azure, right? So the ability to be able to identify, fix, and also enhance things like your security policies, your controls, and your practices. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, I've done enough talking, essentially. So I'm going to ask Bernard. Bernard, how exactly do you analyze and optimize your Microsoft environment with Surveil?
Yeah. So I guess let's really start at the beginning. And thanks, Peter, for that intro. It was really great. I think by starting really at the first part, right? It's analyzing and optimizing a Microsoft environment. What does it actually mean? I think, a lot of us sit and we go, okay, yeah, so I analyze and I optimize pretty often. I use the data sets that Microsoft have given me within my tool sets, and yes, we can use that. And people are right, it works. But what it really truly involves is assessing and fine-tuning various aspects of your Microsoft technology stack, so that you can enhance your efficiency, your security, your performance, and your cost effectiveness. The one thing about this optimization that we always need to remember is that it's an ongoing process. As your cloud workloads evolve, you need to stay proactive, ensuring that your Microsoft environment runs optimally. I think outside of that, some of the things that we really need to be cognizant of and aware of is like, what does adoption look like within my environment? Do we need training? Where are we from can we identify and understand other activities that are running within our environment? So we as Mint have gone out to market and we found a tool set that we've white labeled as such. This tool set has over 180 enterprises already using it worldwide with over 4 million users. So we know it's a tried and trusted tool set already. And within SurveilMint, what we've done is that we've sort of captured and enhanced in it certain aspects that we think are really important. So, one of the things you always want to know and you want to guess is, I've had a look at the attendee list and I see that there are certain companies that are joining us today that are potentially on an EA as an example. Under an EA, within the MS data set, you do receive, a bit of limited information on your admin center. It tells you a little bit about, what sort of licenses you have. There's no optimization recommendations that we're certain of. There's no EA details really around it. What does my contract look like? When is it due? How's it going to work? There's no view of your next year's commit cost. And then you have a lack of contract clarity almost, if you want. So within the Surveil tool, one of the things that it's very strong at specifically for our EA customers is you have full EA and CSP visibility. This is extremely important because it gives you the full capacity to look at where's my EA, where do I sit at the moment? You've got a full contract breakdown on one screen, You also have license optimization recommendations throughout the tool. You've got a year-end true up or true down availability all year round, so you know exactly where you're sitting, and then you can plan and forecast best. Something else to be really cognizant of is that the tool set is built upon 5 pillars of insights, right? That'll be cloud cost optimization, adoption, identity management, security and governance, and then your modern workplace and teams insights. Okay. With that being said, one of the very core pieces of this tool set almost, and this is where I love to start when going into the tool set. Imagine being a CEO, a CTO, or even an IT manager for the most part of it. You have the ability to be able to see at any given time from either an M365 or an Azure data set, where am I currently? What does my annual license optimization look like? What is my annual license cost right now? What sort of savings could I potentially find? With the tool set being built on AI, it gives you all this information, as Peter's already said. It gives you an estimated saving range of what your saving range could look like. In the demo data that we have, you're seeing 62 to 72%, which is really high, I'm not going to lie, but we have seen generally between 26 to 35% decrease in cost savings for customers. A little bit more difficult for an EA customer in particular, because obviously you know that you can only really save on your M365 at your true up, true down state or at your renewal. But from an Azure perspective, we found immediate impact because Azure is managed in a different way. You couldn't hear the name of the toolset. The toolset is called SurveilMint. Okay, so that's the toolset that we have, which is SurveilMint that we're talking about today as such. Within this toolset, what you're then also able to do, or as a CEO, CTO, CIO, IT manager, the ability to be able to sit and go, what is my enabled account aging category look like? This is really important. If you know that, okay, we've got 157 active users within the environment. Who's been in, what does our inactive activity look like over 31 to 90 days? You know, what does our no activity look like at this point? Do we understand this and do we know this as a business upfront? Not really, right? Unless you've got another sort of tool set that can give you this information. The great thing about SurveilMint is that you can get this information off one dashboard almost. You then also look at like your secure score. Excuse me, where are we sitting from a secure score perspective? And Craig will go into this a little bit later, but it's really about, you know, from a secure score perspective, how do we look as a business against the rest of our industry as well, which is really important. Endpoint devices, we have 337 endpoint devices within an environment. How many of them have been active in the last 30 days? You know, why are there 266 that are sitting as stale? What does that mean? You know, these are sort of insights that we can get out of this. We have 229 cloud apps within our environment. This is something that's interesting for me because I know that a lot of entities, when you've got a different number of line businesses, there are times where a line business will bring, a business line will bring in their own cloud app sometimes, and you don't see it. You know, you don't know as potentially as a CIO or CTO, where does that sit? And by clicking into the dashboard, you can actually see where that sits. What does MFA look like across our business? So multi-factor authentication, how is it looking? What does it look like from a user count, from a percentage perspective across our business? Over a timeline, a date period, we can see the increase of that or the decrease and match it and really look at it. And then I think the really important one, which I know Deon loves to talk about, is your total admins, right? Why do you have a total of 10 admins in a 50-user environment as an example, right? And with that, why do 3 of those admins not have MFA? That's a discussion point immediately internally for your business. And what's the security risk around that? So this dashboard is very clear, you know, and the great thing about it, it's built on Power BI. So you can actually create whatever dashboard you would like to out of the data set that's available within the tool. Another great thing about this is that the dashboards are either M365 or Azure, because it looks at your total environment at the end of the day. It looks at your tenant and where is the data put sitting within your tenant per se. Right. So that's really the first bit of this that I think is really important and really great. And we've seen some really aha moments when we're talking to customers one-on-one around this, because as I say, the ability to have that dashboard that's at the click of a button as you open, you know, in the morning, first thing, this is what you see. You know where you are at any given stage with almost real-time live data. I do say almost real-time on purpose. There is a little bit of a delay sometimes, you know, and that delay could be anywhere from 3 minutes to 15 minutes or so is what we're seeing. But outside of that, you know, it's pretty up to date at any given stage. I guess really then the next best or the next part from this is, okay, so I've got this dashboard, now what, right? Once I've clicked into it, then what? You can get insights into user interaction and team collaboration. And this is something I want to spend a little bit of time on, especially with, we know the way the market's gone at the moment. There's a lot of work from home, you know, there's a lot of people that are still sitting outside of the office, not always coming to the office, and you as a manager or as a head of a division or something, you'd like to see what does this look like. You know, you'd like to know how are your people spending time. And please note, this is not a tool set, because it's something that we hear a lot of people say to us, but oh, now this means that my business knows exactly what I'm doing and when I'm doing it and how I'm doing it. This is not what it's about. This is about the ability to say, are you on the correct license? Are you using the correct license with the correct capabilities of that license at any given stage? Okay, so here's a really interesting one. This is one of the dashboards or one of the bits that you can drill down into from the dashboard. So team statistics, right? This looks at a team where you can look at either a line of business or country. So you could change this into line of business or country, whichever you'd like. So if you've got multiple branches across different countries, you can go and you can actually look at, okay, in Spain, what are we doing? In South Africa, what are we doing? In Angola, what are we doing? In Namibia, what are we doing? You know, and you can actually drill down to that sort of data. You can then look at a line of business, so whether that be finance, whether it be IT, whether it be your sales department, because we all know as a salesperson, we love spending time on the phone, but are we spending time doing the correct thing on the phone? Those are some of the questions that you as a business would like to understand. So also from a team's perspective, I can see my team from a monthly perspective, how many meetings are my teams attending over a period? So I can look at that monthly, weekly, daily. I can then go further down and I can go by participant. How much are they actually joining into these calls? How much time are they spending per week on a call and in calls? If we look at this, you also then get like a percentage almost, so 2.6 combined team calls and meetings per account per day for the previous month. So that means that, okay, you've got 2.5 meetings per team member per day over the last month. Is that in line with the way we think as a business that we are running or not? It's really a question that gets opened up to the business. Why are guys spending enough or not enough time on Teams calls? Are they out at customers potentially, or is it just a matter of, okay, maybe we need to do some adoption and some learning as to, what's happening within that environment? We can look at chats as well. What sort of chats are there? Are there private chat messages? What does that count look like versus what is a Teams chat message? So within your Teams, how interactive is that team within a Teams channel? So these are some really awesome stats that you get out of the tool set. And then again, as I say, through line of business or through country view, up to you how you'd really like to do it. I think the next interesting part then is that you can further go down even one layer first. So that's just looking at your team per se and where all the data is correlated and what it's looking at. But you can go one step down and you can actually click on a user. And on a user, you can then see their trends, So how is a customer? How is one of my users using Office 365 as an example? What does their usage look like, and when does it look like? When is it being used really? If we look at this is almost like a timeline of day and then potentially percentage almost within the day. So this is probably a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's 1 week, and we expect it to drop off on a Saturday and Sunday. So that's in line. But what happens if you've got like, let's say Exchange as an example? This is your emails, okay? So that's the green line here. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is great. But then all of a sudden here we've got a spike. Why do I have a spike in emails on a Saturday or Sunday? This is something that you as a business can then start looking at. How is this person utilizing their time from an email perspective or from a Teams call? Maybe their Teams calls all of a sudden are dipping on a Wednesday and the rest of the week they're really high. It's really then, okay, let's have a look and let's understand what is this person doing. Or maybe they're out of the office on a Wednesday because they're actually seeing customers, which I then expected to dip. But if they're not out seeing customers and there's a major dip, why is there a major dip? What's changed on a particular Wednesday? These are just sort of the insights that you really start to get to look at. And I think the really great part about that then is that from an insight perspective or from a product perspective, the tool set actually gives you the ability to go and look at how much of the actual license is being used. So as an example, you may have a receptionist that's potentially sitting on an E5 license. Is there a requirement for a receptionist to be on an E5 license? Maybe yes. Maybe the receptionist does more than just being a receptionist. Maybe they're also involved in other things. You do get certain receptionists that we've seen that are potentially involved with project management, almost in a sense of managing, the time of people, stuff like that. But if it's just a receptionist, why not drop them down to an E1 license? Because then it could just be an online license. They don't need a physical licensing on their machine, as an example. These are the sort of questions that get opened up through this tool set. I think that's really me for now. Outside of this, I'm then going to hand over to Clayton, and Clayton's really going to take you around how to optimize your cloud cost. And I think this is the bit where a lot of people really get excited initially. So cool. Thanks, Clayton, off to you.
Sure thing. Thanks, Bernard. Just before I kick off on how SurveilMint can actually assist you with optimizing, I think I just wanted to maybe ask you guys just to think about your current processes that you have in place. How are you currently identifying opportunities to reduce costs within the environment? And as we take you through the actual platform and sort of highlight key benefits from it, you can do the comparison for yourself and really start to understand the value that SurveilMint can actually bring to your organization. Just to kick off, we know that Microsoft has a beautiful stack of solutions, and it really helps businesses be a lot more efficient in their day-to-day activities. But in addition to that, Microsoft does allow for a lot of flexibility and scalability as well. And the real question that I have for the audience is really, are you making the most out of these options that are available to you? Are you managing your costs effectively? Are you keeping a close eye on the entire environment to understand where the wastage is? And the way in which you are doing it, is it the most effective way? So I'm just sort of setting the tone so you can understand once you go through the platform how this can really add value to yourselves. The platform will provide you with, as mentioned by Peter and Bernard, a fully customizable dashboard so that it gives you an overview of exactly what's important to you and your business in near real time, as mentioned by Bernard. But it keeps you close to your environment so you can see exactly what's happening at all times. It can give you a detailed breakdown of the different accounts, what's happening with the environment. Even if you need to see a forecast of cloud expenditure across M365 as well as Azure, it will allow you to see that within the actual platform. It gives you an opportunity to keep a close eye on where spending is occurring across which different departments. Are there any abnormalities that you should be maybe paying closer attention to? It also helps you identify opportunities where you have unused as well as underutilized licensing as well as resourcing, essentially showing you also what business apps are being utilized within the business and what features aren't, because then you can be very proactive in saying, look, based on what I've identified, this is how I need to be optimizing my environment, and this is where I can reduce my costs based on your actual data from your environment. So in addition, obviously, to providing the necessary insights and visibility, SurveilMint can also provide you with recommendations. And this will then allow you to know exactly where to go, what to click on, what to sort of sort out. With these suggestions, it's linked to best practices as well as industry standards. So that's a sort of sums up how the optimization portion can assist you. We are going to touch more on this in the actual demo. So I'm just literally highlighting the key points for you to sort of look out for as well. Moving on, obviously with the reduction of costs, it can also help you with improving cloud security. I think that's the next section right there, Bernard. And with that being said, I think we can all agree proper security, no matter the size of the organization, it's crucial. And going through this, SurveilMint can actually assist you in that. I want to set the tone again in having you sort of think through your current methods that you have in place to receive recommendations on security improvement. You may already have it in place, but really start thinking of that as we take you through the platform on how your current process goes about in gaining security insights, governance recommendations. How do you identify these gaps? How are you currently using that to ensure compliance across the business? And like I'm saying, even if you already have it in place, we all understand in order to improve, you need to be able to properly monitor environments, to be able to assess them, and then to be able to make improvements. The same stands for your security policies as well. SurveilMint will provide you, as mentioned before, the dashboards to show you the overall view, the overall picture, so you can have an understanding of the current status of your entire environment. It will help point out potential risk and compliance issues across the board, allowing you to see exactly how secure environment is, how vulnerable it is, and compared to industry benchmarks and standards as well. So with the necessary visibility and alerts that SurveilMint will provide, the idea is to make it effortless for you to immediately remediate any risk within your environments, address any security concerns, and it does so by highlighting these gaps for you in a summarized view. So essentially a checklist for you to go through and check off and make sure that you are sorting out any concerns within the environment, and to do it within a quickly manner, because it is near real time. It does sort of highlight that for you. Small things, well, not really necessarily small things like the MFA mentioned earlier. Some could see it as, but it can have a massive impact in your organization. But SurveilMint helps you maintain these environments by pointing these things out what files are leaving the environment, on your specific endpoints, which ones don't have the necessary policies in place. But the whole idea is essentially just to allow you to be more proactive as opposed to be reactive within your environment. That concludes my section. I would like to jump over onto the demo, but just to conclude exactly what SurveilMint is, it is a cloud management platform that's going to allow you to monitor, analyze, as well as optimize your environment across M365 and Azure. It will provide you with all the necessary insight, the dashboards, to allow you to understand your cloud usage. Where are my, what does my performance look like? What is my security posture? It also will link up to intelligent recommendations, like mentioned before, AI-based industry standards, all gets considered to allow you to be more efficient and effective, and also link to your compliance. So that's kind of the summary of what SurveilMint's all about. I am going to hand over to Deon now just to take us through a quick demo, just so that you guys can see everything we sort of highlighted in real time, what it actually looks like. Thank you.
So Bernard, I'm going to take over your screen now.
Thanks, Deon.
A pleasure. Okay. Let me know if you can see.
Yep, we can.
Yeah.
Cool. So the beautiful thing about the SurveilMint tool is, especially for somebody in the technical part like myself, is jumping through multiple portals just to get an overview of a tenant site. SurveilMint has all those technical overviews in a single portal, so to say. We are focusing on the M365 side, but as we can see within the demo environment, I do have the functionality of jumping to Azure and my Office sides. When we look at the portal, when you first log into a portal, you'll always be greeted by a general overview of what the tenant licensing side looks like, or depending on what you've selected. If you log in and you always view M365, your M365 is your default viewpoint. It will load all the statistics for the day for you, and will then represent you the current state of your environment. But if you also are part of the Azure environment, you can just as easily just switch over to Azure. When you switch over to Azure, it also just takes a bit of a minute. It collects all the data that's been running in the backend, and then will present you with a nice little dashboard. But as we've seen, the team has highlighted licensing optimization, product optimization, user utilization, and security. What I've done at the top here is I've taken all key components that they've represented, and I've brought them into the live portal. As we can see, as Bernard has discussed, with the team statistics, I literally can open M365, I can go to the hybrid systems, I can look at what is the hybrid benefits or the hybrid practices that the business is using currently, and I can drill down on the data that's in that tenant. So they've shown you the overview of a weekly view, but I want to see the country view, because part of my work at Mint is also security. If I can see a country view, if I can see the country view, I can see where I need to better practice my security elements. I need to see where I need to enhance my security restrictions for users. For instance, if we had a user that was now traveling across continents, we will be aware of his usage. We'll be aware of his policies and his adaptions. We're literally just at the moment waiting for the portal to just load the data. Let's go back to channel. And then we'll work from there, work through all the users and see that they are properly utilizing the application. So here we can see the devil in the detail. We can see what the users are producing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. We can see on which products and projects they're working on. We can see how active they're engaging with the client, or if they're not engaging with their client, how actively they're engaging with the team. Normally, when we have marketing businesses approach us, they want to see, are their users properly actively engaging with their clients? Because they have to have an external communication system going all day, 100% of the day. They need to see, is the user that they're busy working with utilizing the team systems on an external communication basis properly? Then we have users that have security benefits that's required. So for instance, if you're going for security elements and you need to share, you need to be aware of how you're sharing data. You need to be aware of how your data is being processed through your tenant. And then, as we all know, Microsoft has various amount of packets available. Each license has different capability, and those capabilities can overlap or intermittently cancel out one another. What the SurveilMint tool does is it takes all the licensing activity into account, and it will give you a summarized advisory report of where you need to go, what you need to change, and what license is required for this change, so that you can make sure that if the user logs in, that he has the correct license, that he has the correct security benefits assigned to him, and that those security benefits are correctly configured. If a security benefits fall out of alignment, so for instance, if we see that a security recommendation from Microsoft last month has become redundant, the system will alert you from a redundant security alert, and then you can go and replace the policy, or you can mitigate the policy and rework it so that it works within the latest problems, that can protect you against the latest issues, that the user is always secured. Bernard also have highlighted the secure score. So as we've mentioned, with a secure score, it is an industry-wide just reference of how good your tenant has been secured. If we look at the bottom here, it says you can take your secure score from 68.3% to 91.5% if you utilize an E5 license within your tenant. But how does it calculate that? If we go to security at a glance, we can then expose all the tenant relevant detail. We can look into why he's got a 64%, and we can drill down even deeper in going, if we replace the certain licenses and we amend the recommendations that's been provided by the portal, how will it benefit? It also gives you a little bit of a rundown when a security element has been introduced. For instance, role assignments. We need to know your tenant has 100 users. Why do you have 200 roles assigned? And are those, out of those 200 roles, why do you have only a certain amount of users that have MFA capability on it? This tool will show out the users that have MFA on it, but the MFA isn't actively engaged at the moment. That is a great thing for me to look at. If I go on identity authentication, I can drill into the detail. I can go, this user has MFA disabled, but he is actively using MFA. So when a security audit takes place and they go, are you fully utilizing protection capabilities in your tenant? You can use the data in this dashboard and go, we have probably all our users have MFA activity enabled on them. Users with disabled activity, we can drill down, we can go see where their activity has taken place, why they failed on their activity, and we can actually enhance it by approaching the user, remediating the problem, and cleaning up the system. If we go to authentication methods, again, we can look at how the tenant is being utilized. Are they properly using the PIM systems? Are they probably using role-based access control? Is the role that's being assigned actively used, or is it an over-assigned of a role? We can take all these systems into account, and those systems normally trigger multi-factor authentication or authentication methods. For instance, in a tenant like Mint, if you have an admin role assigned to you, MFA is on your system. It is active on your account, and we need to track it lively so that we can ensure that if you ever have an issue, that the tenant is protected, the data is protected, the users are protected. Here we can have an overview of how the tenant is being engaged with their MFA authentication methods, and then we can clean it up. If we notice that more users are using the push functionality instead of the mobile phone authentication functionality, then we might want to look at our policy structure and change the policy structure to better accommodate the user usage. If we notice that there's a lot of users that are bypassing authentication by clicking that little button saying, remind me in 7 days, we can then approach the business security systems and go, we have a problem where users are recommending the tenant to remember them for 7 days, but he might be breached within 4 or 5 days. Can we maybe disable the system? So it also brings up points of discussion within a client's systems. If we look at detailed authentication methods, it breaks it down even more. It tells us how the user is utilizing it. Is he capable? How long was the password reset? Are the systems currently configured for what the modern authentication utilization best practices are? And if not, what needs to change within the tenant? And we can go make the changes. On the adoption side, if we've noticed you are utilizing a E5 license, we can see under the adoption side, how best are you using the license? Are you fully utilizing the capability or are you underutilizing the capability? If you fully have an E5 license deployed in your entire environment, like Bernard said, you have a receptionist with an E5 license, but she only uses the cloud app functionality. We can then look into the adoption process and see maybe we can downgrade the E5 license to an online license only or a business standard license, and then have her properly utilize all the productivity in that license without having the surcharge of the E5 cost on it. Then we know the user is fully capable of doing her work, her duties. We know she's protected by the functionality of what was required, and we do know that she can be productive of all the elements assigned to her. A lot of the times that clients approach us say that they've noticed that they've produced all these licenses for their users, but some of the users are only using a certain component and they would like to know what those components are. The tool utilizes a very clear out dashboard. It's able to show you all the functionality of the users, how they're using the licenses together, how they're utilizing the products together, where the products are being utilized, and also on what platform the product's being utilized. Because what we've also noticed is we get a question from clients a lot that goes, I've assigned an E5 license to a user, but he's only utilized his cell phone. Is the cell phone probably secured? Is the data protected? Can he be fully functional on the phone or not? Or is he being able to move over to his other platforms, for instance, if he's using a browser system or if he's using a desktop system? We can utilize all that and see where the systems are being utilized, how it's being consumed, and what is being consumed for how long. If we look at the Office apps also shows how the Office apps are being consumed in together. So what we'll most likely notice in most cases is that certain divisions in a business only utilizes certain components within a license. Marketing might not use a full scope Office product, but they'll use the marketing subset licenses of an Office product, whereas a reception might only use Teams and Outlook. Finance will use Excel, SharePoint, where the file system is being stored, and Teams to communicate. And those collaboration points also comes up so that you can look at how the users are collaboratively using the applications together on the platforms together, and you can then utilize those informations to protect your systems together so that you can assign a proper policy going, this data is allowed to flow to this user using these applications with this license benefit, or the restriction. If a user is on his mobile phone a lot and not on his laptop at the office a lot, you can put in a restriction that says if the company has a directive that this user is mobile a lot, his phone has the capability of utilizing the licenses properly, and not with a system on his laptop where it will be restricted in a view mode only. We can also go within the Azure side. So a little bit of the Azure side, we can look at optimization there. If we go to Azure, we can see zombie resources. Within the zombie resource, we can utilize and see, are you utilizing all the resources within your Azure tenant? If your Azure tenant is being underutilized, maybe there's some area for cleanup. Maybe we can go look in with the tool and say, you have 300 storage accounts, but out of those 300 storage accounts, only 100 is active. What's happening with the other 200 storage accounts? Maybe we need to do a cleanup or an archival state project. This is all the data that the Surveil tool gives to you. I don't know, Bernard, if you want to bring up a highlight, if there's something that's been to your eye and you would like me to go there for you.
No, I think you've done a great job, Deon. I'm also just a little bit cognizant of time, and we've got about 15 minutes left or so. So, we'd also like to get a little bit into a Q&A and just understand, have there been any questions, anything that someone has seen so far that they've maybe thought, hey, hold on, what about ABC as an example? I think that you've really summed it up in a sense of what the tool set can bring you from both a line of business, country view, and end user perspective for any exec, wherever they may sit in whichever business, whichever part of the business as such, whether you be a team leader, whether you be a C-level exec, or whether you be an IT manager. It's really great the way the tool set allows so many different views with so much customizability behind it, for you as an individual to get as much information as you can out of the tool. So great. I think great and well done. Thank you so much for that, Deon.
Yeah.
Clayton, sorry, I know, Clayton, you've also had quite a bit of interaction with some customers and stuff. Is there anything else that you think maybe, we want to just, I guess, in fact, hold on. Now that I think about it, there is one thing. Sorry, Peter. I know Peter's laughing because I always do this. It always pops up afterwards. But the one thing as well is that the health check portion as such, right? I think the health check portion is a really important part that we didn't even really touch on today, because the health check is generally where you start with this tool set. The health check runs within your environment for 10 to 21 days, let's say, right? And within that 10 to 21 days, it gathers a whole lot of information about the environment, and it gives you a bird's eye view of what's happening within your environment. It's a great place to start when you initially start off with the tool, because what that does, as I say, it pulls it all together. It looks at third-party tools implemented within your environment as well, and it can then recommend, and it's one of the things we didn't really touch on too much in here, but as an example, maybe you're using Trend and you already have an E5 license in place, or you have Defender as well. Why are you double costing? Why is it, there's just cost elements around that can be looked at. And yes, we know there are needs and there are requirements in certain places where people don't want to take all their eggs and put it in one basket. We don't want to do all our security only through Microsoft as an example. We've seen that and we've heard that, and there's case in point for it. So it works, but it's just so you have a good view and a good understanding of, we've got all these tool sets as well, and this is what these tool sets look like within our environment. It also tells you the most active and least active tool sets within the environment as well, which is really, really cool too. Okay, sorry, Clayton, anything else?
Not much to add. I think you covered it all. I think just one important highlight is, look, a lot of people definitely do their best to try and get this sort of insight from the environments. This is a much faster and easier way to compile, bring it all together for you, avoiding all that necessary steps to go through it and try and find out these details. It's really, really available for you. I have noticed, I don't know, I think somebody wanted to add something. Yeah.
Clayton, see Michelle Rousseau has a question here for you. Is it easy to install SurveilMint?
Yeah.
Extremely easy. We create it for you. We send you a link and you click on it, you log in and you approve. That's how simple it is. I'm making it sound very straightforward because it actually is. It's definitely as easy as that. But yeah.
So there we go. I think that would be the next portion of this, really, right? Are you ready to optimize and start saving? And I think that's where the kicker comes in right now, because we have an offer today that we didn't talk about right at the beginning. But Peter, you want to go through the offer, or are you happy if I run through it?
Well, it's good. I see Ivan's just
yes,
popped a question, and it sort of speak to that. So the great thing about SurveilMint and the way that we're rolling out technology is that you're not looking at purchasing a bulk, big investment into your business, right? So if you look at it from a Microsoft 365 perspective, you're essentially paying per user, right? But that cost is the same whether you have 5 licenses or whether you have 5,000 licenses, right? So with this model, we are able to offer that across. So it is directed at from SMB all the way up to enterprise. We've had quite a lot of success across that plane. What we are doing now, and we're currently running in a promotional period for that, is to give you SurveilMint all up if you sign up, if you're interested in talking to us about SurveilMint and talking about optimizing and looking after your investment security posture, till the end of March there will be no cost associated. And I can assure you also from that regard is that we specialize in cloud economics. The price point will be very attractive to you. Again, this is not an expectation where you go and lay out a big operational expense. The idea really is to give you the opportunity to understand your environment, to actively manage your environment. So please reach out to us if you're interested. I know that Claire will be sharing the links and so forth just now. While I'm talking, how old is the product? So Chris, the product, the Surveil platform, is around about sort of 12 years old. It's been in the cloud for Bernard, I think about 4 of that time. And of course, it's continuously being optimized, looking at Copilot and so forth, Copilot recommendations. Your second question in terms of its managed services, it could be, right? So potentially you have 2 models. You can either you can install the tool for you. You can run the remediations yourself. Your internal team can, of course, implement and so forth and go on those actions. Or potentially we can package that for you as part of our MSP offering, where we would just do that on your behalf. But of course, customers are all different, and we are very flexible in working with you guys in terms of understanding your environment and seeing what option is best for you.
I think also just to further on that, Chris, the other question was how many implementations have been done so far? The tool set does have over 180 enterprises already using this tool set, with over 4 million users already, globally, that is. It is a tool set that we've invested in quite strongly and heavily into, and we believe that it's the perfect tool set for customers that are on a cloud journey in the cloud already. So I think that sort of answers the 3 questions you generally had at this point.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bernard. Yeah, look, I think just in terms of Mint Group from that perspective, we are, of course, across the US, Europe, Australia, and of course, Africa. That's why obviously we're very excited, especially, having all the sort of Nigerians and the Ugandans and guys there. Thanks for joining us. But the reality is it doesn't really matter where a business resides. We can provide that service. Of course, we are a South African-born business, but we are capable to deliver the service in any territory.
Yeah.
All right.
So just around, how long does this actually take? We say 15 minutes, and the reason we say 15 minutes is because there is a little bit of connectivity involved, if I can put it that way. If you're on a 1 terabyte line with no downs, whatever, we know that we can have this tool implemented within 3 minutes, to be honest. So the way that the implementation works really is that we on our side create a link for you. You go in, you click on that link. When you click on that link, you do have to have global admin rights, obviously, to allow the tool into your environment. Once the tool is in your environment, there's 1 write period, and that's when it goes into your environment. Thereafter, it becomes a read-only tool. So it's not like we can go in and change anything or anything like that. I think that's really important to understand and know as well, that it is a read-only tool. So it sits within your environment as a read-only tool over the period of however long you have it installed. As from a health check perspective, the great way to start, we've seen results within 10 days of recent. We always say run it for 21 days, just to get a really good view across the board. We know that within the first 10 days, we can already see 80% of the way the tool will predict generally what your recommendations and stuff like that is. Okay, so appreciation is a tough question. Is there a typical user number where the implementation of SurveilMint pays for itself? That's an interesting one, Peter. You're normally the calculator man. Have you had a look at this yet?
This is a good one.
Well, it's interesting. I would like to, from what perspective Chris is asking the question. So look at the way that we've constructed a licensing, or if you can call it an investment, in that, essentially, if you look at that MPT5, let's say look at an E5 license, for example, what you are talking about is, let's say your licensing price is retail 500, for example, for that license, with SurveilMint included, it will be very similar to that retail price. So in terms of a costing side, your investment is relatively low, but what you are doing is you are adding significant value in that to your customers, in that to your business. You don't have to go outside of that procurement channel to bring it in. In terms of feasibility for us, of course, it works in scale. So, we sell to large enterprises, we sell to SMB. So essentially we see it because it learns off our platform, what a comprisement is. So whether it is 10,000 or 100,000 or 10 users, it all comes into the same bucket for us. And that's also something that, of course, we could extend to partners. Again, so you don't have a big operational investment that you have to make up. You don't necessarily have to go and look at, that specific user number as such. So it pays for itself by having this already embedded, right? So if you're purchasing an MPT5 E5, for example, through a Mint, it would be part of that offering, right? If you pay it outside of it, we'll make it very attractive to go. And it's very sort of digit side if you look at it from that perspective. You're not looking at a lot of these a lot of tools we see in the market would go and ask you to go and, sort of spend 200 Rand per user. That is not what this service is about. Is making sure that you're optimizing your Microsoft investment and, of course, getting your returns from there.
I think, Chris, you sort of answered that question a little bit further, right? Is that from a M365 E5 perspective, retail price is $57 at the moment. If you had to buy a CSP license, M365 E5 with SurveilMint included in it, from Mint, you're looking at $56.14. So it's still cheaper than a retail price for your CSP price plus the tool set on top of it. Okay, I hope that answers the question. But I mean, really at the end of the day, back to implementation, it's pretty quick. It runs pretty quickly. It's a read-only tool, sits in your environment. You have full capability and ability to see what's happening within your environment. To say, over the period in which we have the offer as such, the team will also be available at all times to try and help you and assist you to understand the data that's coming through and what you're looking at. So please take advantage of it. We see great benefit in it, and we wish you all the best with getting that in. I think to close off, Peter, you'd like to do the next bit.
That's right. So our next webinar is specifically around Copilot, not autopilot, Copilot, extension of yourself. So very much looking forward to that. We are introducing that as part of Surveil as well, or SurveilMint specifically. So you'll be looking at that, and that will also be something that you'd be able to utilize. You'll get those insights in terms of, how ready you are for Copilot and things to look out for in terms of the data. So there will be another use case in terms of utilizing Surveil and SurveilMint specifically in that regard. But yeah, please look out for our next webinar. It's on March the 13th. We'll dive into Copilot and making everybody, look even smarter than they are.
I use it.
Great.
Good to know.
I'd like to say thank you all for this. To the team, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time and the presentations. I think you all did a fantastic job, so really appreciate it. And please, we look forward to hearing from you guys at any stage. Reach out to Clayton or myself as the first point of contact. We are here to assist however be. Ivan, I will actually give you a call here after, because I know that it's something that we're definitely going to have to chat about with some other stuff that's going on at the moment. So thanks for joining as well. Appreciate it. Yeah, have a great day,
everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Yep.